first of all, you can see we've got some spices here. So I've just got a bit of a range. So there's the obvious staples of just like your salt and pepper, okay? Nothing too fancy there. And then I've got a range of some spices. So we've got like cumin, cinnamon, chili, paprika, Cajun. You can tell we're a bit partial to some spicy food here in the Montefiore household. Some dried herbs, some coriander and rosemary there as two examples. So even just with that limited selection, you can, you know, spice up literally and make a whole bunch of different meals and just add some interest to a whole number of meals just with those. So they're really handy to have. Then we move on here to our fats. So I've got some coconut oil. You know, I don't tend to go through this all that quickly, but I don't love the coconut taste, and you can get oils that the coconut taste has been moved out of, but you know, I have that sometimes. Good to help with the bowels if you're struggling with some constipation early on. This stuff for some reason works brilliantly to get the bowels moving well. And then I always buy my olive oil in bulk because we go through it quite a lot. That's the most common oil we use for cooking and salads and all sort of stuff. So that's a really handy one to have. So you definitely want to have enough fats. Obviously then you've got your refrigerated fats as well, which we'll go through in another lesson, but that's things like your butter, your ghee, and that sort of stuff. All right. And so next we've got our canned fish. So it's just handy to have some tuna or sardines or something on hand in case you get stuck, and obviously portable, long shelf life. So that can be a handy one to have. We've got a bit of a range of sauces here. So, you know, different vinegars, some rice wine vinegar. I've got Worcestershire sauce. Yes, it does contain sugar, but you know, you would only ever use a dash. And I mean, they give a 30 gram serve here is 5.4 grams of carbs, and most of that is sugar. I think you'd struggle to have a 30 gram serve. I reckon you'd be lucky to have a teaspoon. So it's literally going to just be a gram or two of carbs, and most people can tolerate that. It's handy to have with some eggs if you're that way inclined. And then we've got fish sauce, which I added to the massaman curry I've got cooking here. And again, you know, another handy salty sauce that's good to have, that adds really nice flavour to meals. All right, and so then other things handy to have on hand are just, you know, packet of nuts. So these are just some salted cashews. Do be careful with the amounts. Don't go snacking from this packet, but if you pre-portion out amounts, these are a handy snack to have. A little bit of crunch can be handy, you know, if you feel like, you know, a bit of a dessert or a yogurt with some berries. I will sometimes add these toasted coconut flakes. And these ones have sea salt. I think it's nice to, you know, just try and add salt wherever you can. But they're almond meal. So different kind of low carb flours can be handy to have. And I mentioned this before, is, you know, handy to use in the choffle recipe using the waffle maker that I mentioned. Just 1 tablespoon of that amongst the egg and the handful of mozzarella cheese. And, you know, whack that in the waffle maker. So easy to do, actually easier than a regular waffle recipe, which has a whole bunch of different ingredients in it. So some of the low carb flours, coconut flour is another option that you can use. I tend to not love coconut flour as a texture. I find it a little bit hard to use. To be honest, I'm a simple girl and I tend to just go for, you know, meat and 3 veg or an omelette in the morning. I don't do a lot of low carb baking, but some people do. And so coconut flour and your almond flour can be handy in things like pancakes and, you know, low carb muffins and that sort of stuff. I wouldn't go for those too regularly if you can. And then just some other optional things if you want to do some low carb baking. So things like your bicarb soda and your stevia. Again, I don't use this much, and since I went low carb 3 years ago, this stevia has remained. I have hardly used any of it. I don't love the aftertaste, but you know, some people find it handy to get them through when they're getting used to having foods that aren't as sweet as what they used to have if they would have, you know, a fair bit of highly refined sugars. All right, so that summarizes the pantry items. Again, it's nothing too fancy. It doesn't have to be that out there, but just even a few basics and just making sure you've got them ready to go can help to set you up for some really good success. And then especially when we get on to the meal planning and you get into your groove of what you're going to do each week, just having these basic things around will help you a lot. Okay, thanks for watching. See you soon.